Hello and a very warm welcome to the 2020 Christmas special of the Glasgow Motorway Archive podcast. I'm Stuart and I'm joined by John.
Hello.
And I'm joined by Nick.
Howdy.
How are we both doing? John, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's good to be sitting here again. I noticed that the archive office is very festive. You've gone all out with the tinsel.
Yep, wouldn't have it any other way. And this music, wonderful music, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, it's not a Christmas podcast without your music.
Absolutely.
Notice I'm saying your music.
My music, well, that's it. As director,
I have nothing
get
to do with this.
Yep.
You know.
Nick, how's things with you? You're joining us remotely, but we can hear you fine.
Good. Yeah, things are going well. Thanks very much for having me back on for what is now an annual tradition, I think.
Yes, it is indeed. And as anybody who's listened to us for a while will know that the Christmas edition of the podcast is usually quite a big affair for us. But given the way 2020 has gone, we've obviously had to scale things back a bit this year, so no live broadcast, no special features. But what we've decided to do is actually bring in a completely new topic, one that we've never discussed before, but one that people seem to be interested in, and that is the Ayrshire dual carriageway system. Because when you think about it, Ayrshire actually has a lot of expressway standard
good quality roads down there, and we've never really spoken about them.
We haven't, because we've been so focused in other parts of the country that we've kind of missed them. So, why not? Christmas special.
Absolutely.
Bring it in, let's see what we've done. And we have done a ton of research for this.
Well, this is the thing. We actually the reason why we've not spoken about it is we haven't known much about it.
Yeah.
Yes, sure, through our work, we've been down there or when we visited Ayrshire, but we just don't have much info. So, Stuart, you've spent a lot of time looking into this with the help of,
Graham. Absolutely. We have to thank Graham Yule and John Tal for the research and for some of the information that they've provided and supplied on all of these Ayrshire schemes. Without those guys, we really would have struggled to.
It would be a very short podcast.
Yeah, it would. So thanks so much to them. We really do appreciate it. And I know they both listen to the podcast as well. So hopefully their information will make a good one.
Okay. So when we're talking about Ayrshire roads, are we talking about the main road, like the trunk roads down in Ayrshire? Well, how far are we going down here?
Yeah,
kind of area.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you a list of routes because there are some trunk and there's some non-trunk. So some local authority maintained routes and amongst the government maintained routes. Okay. So we're thinking, and we're only thinking about the expressway style roads. So the dual carriageways, the fast-moving high-speed dual carriageways. So I'm thinking the A71. Between the A77 and the A78.
Is that the one between, was it Warwick's and Belfield?
So Irving to Kilmarnock.
Right. Yep.
We're also going to look at the A78 from just north of Irving at Kilwinning all the way down to Prestwick.
Okay, another one.
There's the A77 from the end of the M77 at Fenwick all the way down to Ayr at Woodlets.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's a wee extra one in here. We've got the A79, which is the wee loop that goes around the north of the runway of Prestwick Airport. And also there's a wee bit of A76 that I've chucked in as well, which is single carriageway, but it ties in with the system, and that's the Hurlful Bypass.
Is that the thing that goes down towards Cumnock?
It goes down towards Cumnock, but the section we're talking about joins the A77 at Belfield. And just bypasses.
I know the bit you're talking about, yes.
Yeah.
I've not driven it all, but I know the bit.
So we were having a chat about this before we started recording, and John, you're fairly familiar with Ayrshire. Nick, you're not so familiar with Ayrshire, which is good because it means we can throw some questions your way and see what you think about that.
An independent kind of opinion.
Yeah.
And of course, Nick, you can question us and go, I'm sorry guys, where the hell is that? So.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm going to have to sit with the maps open, I think.
Yeah, you should.
That's a good idea. That's what I done when we were doing this last time, and we had a great chat.
Yeah, so exactly. The maps are always helpful.
Get it open.
Yeah. So then, John, come to you then.
Sure.
Ayrshire, dual carriageway. What's your immediate thought?
See, whenever I think of it, I think of the Irving Bypass.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. Is
well, don't tell anybody now. Don't tell anybody now because we're coming to that.
Right. Okay. Well. Okay. I'll just I'll keep the intrigue then.
Okay.
But no, I do think of the A78, particularly that section around Irving, the new town there. But I do also think about a road that is no longer with us to some degree, and that was the old A77 before that was converted to motorway. But that's really what I think of, to be honest with you. I do use these roads quite a bit if I'm heading down to Irving or Ayr. The Ayr bypass as well.
Yep. Nick, you said obviously you weren't just as familiar with them, but in terms of Ayrshire and dual carriageway, what would come to your mind first if I was asking you about one of the routes?
The first one would be the A77. When the main route's heading down into towards Ayrshire itself. A couple of the big interchanges on the A77. And then after that bit about it, maybe down to Girvan Way I think is about the extent of the roads that I would say that I'm knowledgeable of. Certainly don't know a lot about them, but I could maybe recall from memory driving down them. But apart from that, yeah, that's really the only main routes that I'd use.
Yeah, and you know, like Nick, that was kind of me until maybe a couple of years ago when I went down one of the times on a drive, and I thought, you know, there's actually some interesting features here.
I remember we done an Ayrshire day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh, this is actually quite interesting. And I remember, this is as sad as it gets really, but the thing that stuck out for me was the narrow width of the Kilmarnock bypass on the A77. Because when you come off the M77, which is built to modern standards, quite wide, maybe 3.8 wide meter lanes, and then you get to Kilmarnock bypass, and they're probably just, you know, barely above maybe 3.5 meters, something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Noticeable difference, and no hard strip on either
the road's
side.
in quite a deep cutting there, isn't it?
Yes, it is as well. Yeah. So, will we start with the A77?
I think we do. It's the main route that everyone thinks of, and a continuation of the M77.
Okay, so we've done podcasts before where we've spoken about the M77. So to give people a bit of background on the A77, so that is the main trunk road between Glasgow and Stranraer. It's existed for decades. The vast majority of its length is single carriageway, so from Ayr all the way to Stranraer is single carriageway. Historically, the section between the north of the Kilmarnock bypass and the end of the M77 at Newton Mearns was single carriageway. It was a bit of a killer road. It was a death trap, and the motorway was opened in 2005 and removed that section. So that basically provided a section of high quality road all the way from Glasgow at the M8 all the way down to Ayr.
Yeah.
But the first section of old dual carriageway that you reach is the Kilmarnock bypass.
Yes.
And that starts at an interchange called Meiklewood.
Meiklewood, yes, that's right. So that's north of Kilmarnock.
Yeah. So the Kilmarnock bypass itself was actually quite a long scheme. It was, you know, several miles long. It was designed as most of these old schemes were pre-1975 by Ayr County Council, and it came in at a cost of £5 million, which is actually quite a considerable amount of money now. You know, you're probably looking at well over 100 million. You know, now, and if you were looking at equivalent prices, constructed by our old friends Wattlings.
Okay.
Yep, who got about
Inner Ring Road favourites.
Yep. So they got about. Wattlings were involved in the construction of that, and it was opened on the 2nd of February 1973, which actually,
do you know
is
what?
Probably more recent than I thought.
I always thought it smacked of kind of early to mid 60s for me when I looked at it.
I thought that as well.
Yeah, just from looking at some of the bridges and things like that, it just seemed that way.
I wonder if it was designed many years before it was actually built.
Well, here's the thing. Why was the Kilmarnock bypass? This is a question, you might not know this. Not asking for a rhetorical thing, but why was that bit built? You know, we've got to do the Kilmarnock bypass. So surely you'd start at Glasgow and go, let's upgrade all of this down there.
The simple reason is the main road through Kilmarnock, the A77 at that time, went through the town centre.
All right, okay.
The original proposal was actually to provide Kilmarnock with a western bypass, and there is actually a section of dual carriageway within Kilmarnock, just approaching the west of the town centre, that exists already. And that was anticipated as being the first phase of the eventual Kilmarnock Western Bypass.
Right,
Now,
okay.
I believe one lane on either side of that's now hatched off. It's back to single carriageway. And at some point during the 60s, they decided, no, hang on, we're going to take this road on a whole new line and we're going to run it east of the town.
I'm just looking at the maps, and I'm not sure, Nick, if you can see this evidence.
I was just going to ask, I take it that single carriageway section you're talking about is the Hurlful Road?
That's right. Hurlford Road is the bit that comes into Belfield Interchange.
Just leads off the Belfield Interchange.
That's right. Yep. So that's the bit of A71. So they decided, obviously, to run the bypass east of Kilmarnock. And possibly that was because they envisaged this big interchange with the two other major routes. So the E76 heading off to Dumfries, and the E71 that was then going to cut across to the new Irving, new town. So I wonder if that was perhaps a plan there. You know, if they had run it west of the town, what would they have done with E76? They would need to have extended that quite a bit to reach it.
You'd probably end up having to build a ring road of sorts.
Yeah,
you know.
So. Yeah, exactly. So Kilmarnock bypass that does that. Very interesting at Belfield because of the proximity of the river to the junction. When you're going off the slip roads, you'd actually on bridges coming from the north. And you go off, or if you're heading north, when you cut off in the slip roads, you actually cross two bridges over the river.
I think that is quite unique. Well, so. is it really? But it's not very common.
It's not common,
and I always think, gosh, that must have been quite expensive. Would you not have tried to move the junction elsewhere to avoid that? Yeah. Save yourself a couple of bridges. I want to talk a bit about Belfield Interchange. And Belfield Interchange doesn't have lights on it, does it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
And I found that a very busy junction.
It's very busy. It's horrifically busy.
Yeah, and I found when coming up, and it's quite a large roundabout, good geometry and sight lines on it, and people do go quite quickly around it, so it's quite hard to get from the top of the slip.
I think the most difficult manoeuvre on that roundabout is if you're coming out of Kilmarnock on the local road and you're looking to join the roundabout, or if you're coming off the A76 and you're looking to join, the A71 or go north on the A77, because they sort of have the busy moves, the busy movements around that roundabout. My understanding is that there is a city deal proposal to install traffic lights on that junction, which a lot of people will probably go, thank God. Should have been there years ago, because it can be quite difficult to get onto the roundabout at busy times. And you do get queuing on some of the slips as well. I know you do on the east approach to Belfield from the A71. You get some queues on there at busy times, and on the southbound off slip as well, from the A77.
Do you think it's potentially a junction that in the future, I'm not sure what the turning movements are entirely on it, but something that could benefit from another flyover?
You never know. I imagine from an engineering point of view, it could be quite difficult because of because you got the river.
Would be very high.
Yeah, it would need to be very high to clear everything. Does the traffic justify it?
You don't know.
The traffic lights will probably solve the issue,
situation.
I would think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's that one. So there is another junction on the Cabana bypass known as Grassyards Interchange.
Yes.
Now, I seen, we had a look at the opening booklet for Cabana Bypass, some papers, and it doesn't actually mention that on the map there, but that is an original feature of that.
Yeah, it must be. It has to be. Yeah. I've always considered that one as being a kind of a northern access to Kilmarnock. Yeah. There's a lot of new housing built in Kilmarnock around about that time in that area, and I often wondered if Grassyards was maybe provided for that.
Yeah,
Grassyards is a full diamond, isn't it?
Yes,
a full diamond interchange.
It's just called what we call a diamond.
A diamond,
Just any pedantic people out there who might call a full diamond something else. It's just a diamond. Yes.
Okay. So you've got that one.
There's also the one at the bottom, the fork interchange at the bottom of the bypass.
Now this is where the old A77 used to come out of Kilmarnock and join there.
Right. I see.
So if you were,
this was a good tie-in.
Yeah. So that's the tie-in. There's a very big wide verge on the near side as you're heading south. At that junction, where the slip road comes round and joins, and there's a lot of, very wide verge there for some reason, probably for sight lines or something like that.
Okay.
And then after that, you basically continue on the road to Ayr or down towards Ayr.
Yeah, that goes down towards, is it Dutch House roundabout?
Yeah, Dutch House. Now, it drops in spec quite considerably at this point. Now, you think you've come off the Kilmarnock bypass, which is fully grade separated, no roundabouts, no traffic signals, anything like that. And if you've come from Glasgow in the M77, you've had uninterrupted flow from Glasgow all the way to the end of the Kilmarnock bypass.
You're talking about present day.
Yeah, yes. Present day. So after that, you reach the section which was basically constructed as Bog End to Dutch House. So that's that section of dual carriageway with a 50-mile-an-hour limit on it with the average speed cameras.
This is where the average speed cameras start. So this to me it almost seems like at the time it was one of these parallel dueling jobs, and it was done on the cheap.
Exactly.
And you do look at it; it's quite a straight section of road, isn't it? And it's fronted by houses, and there's a little bit of up and down.
There's a couple of villages. They've squeezed it in there. Now, I thought that had been done years and years and years and years ago, like way back, maybe even early 60s. But it turns out it only opened in 1969. It was built by Murdoch Mackenzie, who were based in Motherwell. They built most of the East Kilbride Expressway. That's they've been mentioned for that before. They still exist. Again, on a design by Ayr County Council. Now we don't know when in 1969 it opened. So if anybody remembers that section,
or how much it cost,
So if anybody has that information. Now there's some facts about this section.
Right.
It was a death trap.
Right.
There was crossovers in the middle of the road, so for right-hand turns and for traffic emerging from side roads at Symington. You might remember Symington.
Yeah.
And I believe that two police officers were killed back in the early 2000s there when emerging from a junction. And that led to calls for an upgrade, which have come forward and have happened. And that's why the junction now there, just at Hansel Village, has been grade separated, and there was 2 overbridges provided.
That's right.
Yeah.
They've taken those potential conflicts out.
Yeah.
With those things. I mean, this is one where I could ask you about this, Nick, is when I you get these dual carriageways where you, I don't know what the actual term is, where you have a gap in the central reservation where you can turn across the other carriageway, especially when they're at national speed limit. They're really quite dangerous. You need, I don't know what your opinion is of these things, or if you've had to negotiate a few of these.
Even in the highway, I always go back to the highway code for these things, but even the highway code, the specific photos and specific wording for doing this type of thing, that just shows how dangerous, or not inherently dangerous the road is, but how dangerous the manoeuvre itself is. Yeah. I'm always a fan of, see, especially if there's a roundabout just a wee bit further round, if I can, it's a lot safer to get down to the roundabout and spin about, it can back up. See, sometimes it can actually save you quite a bit of time doing that as well, instead of having to wait at that junction. It stops putting you at risk, especially in a cross flow of traffic for somebody coming up at what is a national speed limit. Yeah,
you're right. I mean, it's dangerous and difficult to do turning off the road, but it's even worse if you are turning onto the dual carriageway.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen this at Lawrencekirk on the A90, which is a place that's going to get a flyover. And we had to come out of basically a small side road and going across 70-mile-an-hour dual carriageway to then hide in a refuge in the Central Reserve to then nip out into lane 2.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. You think about it, it's kind of crazy.
These gaps in the centre res, they work very well when you've got low traffic flow. And I suppose thinking back to 1969 when that was built, it was probably, it was only getting maybe a few hundred vehicles a day. You know, so you're moving out, it's just like a quiet road. You know, it's easy that there's no traffic coming. But when that becomes 20, 30,000 vehicles a day in each direction, that's a whole different ball game, you know, and you can only squeeze so many cars into the gap in the middle as well. And, you know, it was probably, you know, it was just trouble waiting to happen.
Exactly. So this section here, I don't know what the history is with the speed limit at Symington Bogan.
It was national speed limit. Yeah. Historically, it was national speed limit, and that accident happened. And now, I don't recall if the 50 was brought in immediately after the accident as a way of trying to improve safety. But the average speed cameras, which run all the way down the A77 from there, all the way to, now it's not quite Stranraer, but it's north of Stranraer or Girvan.
It was the first place in Scotland that put these in permanently.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it cut the accident rate by a huge amount. But the 50-mile-an-hour limit came in at that point. Now, I think it was promised initially that the 50 limit would be lifted when the flyovers were completed.
That's correct.
But to date, that has not happened.
It's come up in Parliament a few times because I have looked into it, but they don't seem to be budging on it.
Yeah, and I think they've decided to leave it as it is for the moment. So that's the kind of, that's probably the most substandard section of dual carriageway in all the bits we're going to talk about. Although it's been improved massively now.
See the flyover that was put there. When was that built? Was that a more recent addition? Or,
yeah, that was like 20.
Not the flyover, the pedestrian crossover. Sorry,
the bridge, the old footbridge. That's been there, I think, since the 80s. I think that's been that's been there for a while. The white bridge, the footbridge.
Yeah.
I think it's been there for maybe about 30 years. No doubt somebody listening will be able to tell us, but I need to check the records. We do have records available for that, but I reckon it was possibly the 80s for that one. Hansel Footbridge, that one's called.
Yeah, that just comes out of Hansel.
Yeah, just comes out of the wee Hansel village there. So yeah, I know the one you mean, but I think it's been there a while. Flyovers, I think, went in 2012, 2013.
Yeah, around about that time. It was about 2012, 2013. Yeah. So we get down to Dutch House, which is, our kind of next section that we're going to talk about.
So Dutch House is basically the northern end of the Ayr Bypass. And the Ayr Bypass is miles long, miles and miles long, because it goes all the way from Dutch House all the way down to Bankfield Roundabout, which is way to the south of Ayr. But again, Ayr was a big town. Ayr still is a big town, and I can only imagine what it'd been like with all that holiday traffic and summer traffic piling through Ayr town centre,
especially to go further south.
Yeah. So there's three main sections of the Ayr Bypass, and there's some interesting stories behind bits of this as well, which I'm going to tell you about. The first phase, which is Dutch House to Woodlets, is probably the section we know best. So that's the dual carriageway section around Prestwick Airport. So you run around east of Prestwick Airport, and when you look across, you can see that the runway and the airport quite clearly.
Yeah.
Now, this is the bit that was built early. So I actually would have thought, I had assumed that section, just by the feel of it, had come later than the Bog End to Dutch House and maybe even the Cabana Bypass. But no, it opened on the 10th of March, 1961. So it's actually one of the earliest dual carriageways of that type in the whole country.
It's actually quite decent.
Yeah.
There is a nasty little roundabout halfway along it, quite a small roundabout that was added in later.
Yeah. It was a 90s edition, I think. That roundabout.
That was put in, and it's quite small. And I don't like that roundabout.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
There's a nasty dip in it.
Yeah.
And you go around it, it's just off.
I think that's designed to slow people down as well, that roundabout, based on how tight it is to get around it. Yeah. I think they were maybe thinking...
It's a bit of a Langbank type thing where let's make a small little roundabout that you can't just turbo through.
Yeah.
You know,
we're in the company of people who don't like us turboing through anything. Roundabouts especially, so just bear that in mind.
I keep forgetting that. I'm just looking over my microphone. There's Nick there.
He's watching. You know, yeah, he's taking notes. You know, he's taking notes in his book. You know?
I've got it. My book's full. I can't take any more notes.
Oh, that's fine then, Stuart. Let's just turbo away. Yeah.
But even just looking at the maps for that roundabout and driving that roundabout as well, you can tell it's designed to slow people down. It's designed to really take the speed off before you continue on to your next section of road.
Oh, definitely.
There's this thing where they try and put these deflections and stuff in.
Yeah. You know? It was built by Watlings as well. Good old Watlings. They certainly got about. We do need a cost for this one as well. I reckon it was probably in the hundreds of thousands of pounds based on the time, you know, when it was built. Probably not in the millions at that stage, I would think. And again, it was under design by Ayr County Council. All of these schemes, I should have said, were 75% funded by the Scottish Office, as we've said many times.
But designed in-house, so Ayr had their own design office.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, as all the old councils did.
Councils
even up to Strathclyde days. Yeah, no, they've been cut back to the bone so much they can barely do much.
Yeah, but it costs far more money to have to get a consultant in. You know. Look at you! You're agreeing with me, but you can't agree with me. Like, I know, but you know, John, that's just where it is. But anyway, sorry. Please continue.
Yeah. Okay. So that takes us to Whitlings. What Whitlings? No. Whitlets.
Whitlets. So
Whitlings and Whitlets.
Whitlets is a massive roundabout,
but it wasn't always.
You know, so
it wasn't always. I remember Whitlets when it was just 2 lanes all the way around it, and it was a traffic congestion nightmare.
Okay.
Nightmare. Total
so
nightmare.
It opened us to.
So if you had a nice sunny summer's day in June or July, and everybody said, "I'm going to Ayr for the day," and people would pile down the A77 and gridlock it, and it would be queued all the way back to Dutch House.
Yeah,
you know, and it was a nightmare. And then I think in the early to mid 2000s, they widened it considerably and made it 4 lanes, and it's wider on the approach. And they put the traffic signals on and various other things. And that basically dealt with the congestion issues there. But my God, if you were to go back 30, 40 years on a summer's day, a good summer's day, it would have been pretty crippling down there in traffic. And I'm sure there's people listening to this who remember that. I only remember, I remember going down there a couple of times when I was much, much younger, and that being pointed out to me that was a hot spot for congestion down there.
The Sheriff Hall of the South.
Oh yeah, very much.
I mean, it's mostly 4 lanes going around it. I found it okay. I think it's reasonably well signed. And,
yeah, it is now. It is now.
Yeah,
it wasn't way back
prior.
And again, that's probably a reflection of the fact that it was built in 1961. You know, and it would have needed some modernisation. And bear in mind, that's the end of the dual carriageway. You hit the single carriageway or bypass after that.
And that probably explains why there's no flyover, because I think, why would you not put a flyover there?
Yeah, again, because the traffic flows probably just did not justify it at that time. In 1961, they were getting dual carriageways before most of the rest of the country.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, was dual before even, you know, parts of the M8 or A8, sorry, and A80. You know, so it was even parts of the A74 still hadn't been finished at that point. So Ayr County Council were obviously quick out the gate on that one. Yeah. Now, sorry, Nick, you go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, see, I've been round that roundabout as well, and it's almost 4 lanes all the way around it. Does that show almost a strategic importance, if you like, of it?
Yeah.
Given they've upgraded it to that 4 lane, because I can't recall off A-class roads any other roundabouts of this size. I mean, I know the Wraith and the upgrade from there, I think that's a 3 or 4 lane going round it, but that's just off a motorway, just for an A-class road.
Yeah.
Well, Goga roundabout would like a word with you, Nick. That is
that's in the east.
That's in the east. Oh yeah, we've done that.
That's still hell on earth. You know.
Yeah, but that actually has a road under it. It
but
has
that underpass. Here we're going off on tangents. Thanks, John. That underpass, that whole system at Gogar is let down by the fact that they didn't finish the Barton bypass.
Of course, you're absolutely right.
You know, but yeah, you're right.
But no, it is. You know, you don't see many 4 lane roundabouts. You know, and some people do argue these don't work particularly well.
John Cullen would say otherwise. He was a big,
big fan of these multi-lane.
Yep.
But in England, for example, I mean, we've been on Malfunction Junction in Hanger Lane, and that's huge. The amount of lanes you can get is 5 or 6 or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So let me see the modifications there, and actually, it'd be good to get some detail behind that. I seem to remember that Amy, as the operating company back in those days down there, were involved in that upgrade work. I seem to remember, so I'll need to look up, need to do some research and see when that happened.
Back being
the back there operating company again, looking after that section of road.
Yeah.
Now, I said we were only going to talk about dual carriageway sections. I lied.
Okay.
We're going to talk about stages 2 and 3 of the Ayr bypass as well, which continue it from Woodlets all the way around to, as I said earlier, down to Bankfield roundabout. Now, these were built in 2 sections, so 2 contracts. Stage 2, which takes the road from Woodlets to Holmeston, again designed by Ayr County Council. It opened in April 1963, so only a couple of years later,
right?
And it was extended south again. So basically, that section really from Woodlets to Dutch House, you could actually say was more of a Prestwick bypass than an Ayr bypass.
Right.
And some of the papers that we came across actually refer to the Prestwick bypass, as well. So there could be a bit of, name changing going on between Ayr bypass stage 1 and Prestwick bypass. Okay, for anybody who's looking up. It was J. White and Co. who built this section, not a contractor I'm familiar with, but apparently they were based in Edinburgh, and we don't have any cost for that. Stage 3, which came along from Holmeston to Bankfield, things started to slow down a wee bit here, because it didn't come along until 1971. So now, that's 8 years, before it was continuing. So you have to make a hard right turn back into Ayr to then go all the way down through the south and then re-emerge from Ayr, south of the town. So that must have been quite awkward for a while. Again, single carriageway. That was built by James Anderson and King. Again, not a contractor I'm familiar with.
No, I've not heard of them.
Now, stages 2 and 3, it's very interesting. There was a long drawn-out fight between Ayr County Council and the Scottish Office about the standard of road that they were looking to provide. Ayr County Council wanted to dual the entire Ayr bypass from day one. The Scottish Office kicked back on cost grounds and said that the traffic flows, both existing and projected, just didn't justify it. But there was various articles that John had found when he was looking for us. And there was one of them that actually said that it was only going to be something like £100,000 more to dual the whole thing, which would have been locking in some benefits for it for even now, that would have worked, because you'll be aware that Transport Scotland have proposals to dual the Ayr bypass in its entirety, and that came out in the 2008 review. So that is a scheme, they actually want to dual the entire Ayr bypass. Now, crucially, the earthworks were done for stage 2.
I was just going to say, I mean, looking at this, it looks like it's dual. I'm going to make a word up, dualable.
Yeah.
So yes.
So it was prepared for dualing, but not actually dualed. So when they do eventually come to do it, it should be quite easy to tack in an extra carriageway there. Again, Ayr, like a lot of towns across the UK, has suffered from sprawl, and it's like the bypass has actually created a new boundary of the town. housing has crept farther and further and further east,
and then they stop becoming bypasses and they just become a distributor road, or something like that. But really, how much traffic is going south of Ayr as well? I mean, there is quite a lot
heading for the ports down at Stranraer and beyond.
I mean, before we move on to another route very quickly, there is a town, Maybole, which is south of Ayr that is at this current time having a bypass constructed.
Well, Strathclyde Regional Council had on its books bypasses for all of these towns on the A77, Girvan, Maybole. There's another one in there, maybe. They had always intended to build them, but they just were never priorities. So Maybole's finally getting its bypass. Hopefully Girvan will get its one as well.
Not a dual carriageway, I don't think. I think it's a 2+1.
It's 2+1, which is not bad, I suppose. It's not bad. Some might argue that given the strategic importance of Stranraer, that maybe the A77 should be dualled all the way to Stranraer from Glasgow, and likewise the A75 from Stranraer to
we can only dream.
Yeah. Something to consider in the future.
A77. It's quite strange heading down the A77 though, because it is relatively dualled all the way until you get to that last roundabout we're speaking about. You then get that short single, sort of goes into a single carriageway section just because of the way the road goes, and then the next thing you're through, is it Maybole? Yeah, it's Maybole the town.
Yeah.
And you're driving through what is a town centre before you head back out the town centre again. I know that's the way that it used to be done, but
Oh, well.
And Maybell's very narrow. I think it's got like a bit of a one-way system as well, where southbound traffic is using the Old Town Centre, and there's a northbound coming around the outside and rejoins.
That's very unusual. That I've noticed.
So
that
they really are screaming out for a bypass there, definitely. So that'll be a benefit there.
I haven't been down that way for a long time. South of Ayr has been a long time.
Yeah, we need to go and do some investigating down there. We'll get some photos and research done. Any final E77 thoughts, John?
No, nothing really. I mean, it's good. Just as I say, something I've always wanted to see is perhaps a bit of grade separation in some areas. Some improvements to some of the junctions would be quite nice, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But we are where we are. There is one thing maybe at Dutch House roundabout. There is a left-hand dedicated lane.
Well, the filter,
the filter lane. That was obviously a later addition at some
point.
I
think I remember that going in as well. I think that might have been an early 2000s addition again, because you used to get a lot of queuing in the southbound direction to that roundabout. But by providing that filter, at least E77 bound southbound traffic was able to carry on through. And you've got the services at Dutch House as well, a rather large service area, and at Belfield. You know, there's a big service area at Belfield as well. You've got the McDonald's and the petrol station, hotel, and likewise at Dutch House.
Yeah,
you know, you have various facilities there, so it's well served by facilities just off the road.
Some long distance, traffic has to go through
trucks and things. Yeah.
Is it best to move straight on to maybe the A79 here?
Yeah, definitely.
I noticed you've got at the end of the list, so the Prestwick bypass, as you've got it called. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to us about this.
Right. So this is basically the loop that goes from Dutch House roundabout. So at the far north end of the Ayr bypass, it curves around the north of the Prestwick Airport runway, right? And it rejoins what was the old A78, I believe, actually in Prestwick, just north of the town centre.
I see where you are now. Yeah. And there's by the railway station. Yeah.
And there was actually a section of the road, the original A77 is still there. The leg that came off of Dutch House roundabout and went across the old runway, there's actually still a bit of it visible on the ground. But the road doesn't go anywhere now. You'll see that coming off. So that was the original E77 coming off the Bulgate to Simonton stretch, and it cut across. But when they decided in the 60s they were going to lengthen the Prestwick runway, now bear in mind at that time that Prestwick was the main airport in Scotland for transatlantic flights. Mm-hmm. You know, Prestwick had the monopoly on transatlantic flights from Scotland at that time. Glasgow was for regional flights only. So Prestwick was a very important airport. It's kind of diminished in importance for passenger traffic,
it's a very long runway.
Yeah, it has indeed. So it can take the biggest planes that you get in the world. And if you've ever been down there when one of the big cargo planes come in, some of them are huge.
I don't know if it was a myth, but the space shuttle apparently is some of an emergency places in the world where it could land. I don't know if it was Prestwick or Campbelltown.
No, it was Prestwick. Prestwick was on the emergency
NASA list.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Yeah. So that section basically was completed in 1964, November 1964, to take the road around the north of the runway, the extended runway. And there was a new terminal building and things opened at that time as well. That was A.M. Carmichael who constructed that section, again on a design by Ayr County Council. It only cost 336k, which would probably be a few £1 million now, actually, when you think of the time that's passed. What's that, 56 years ago? That's a good wee section of road, that, because you run right down the side of the runway, and you're between the railway line at the coast, right on the seafront.
Yeah.
Then you've got the railway, then you've got the dual carriageway, then you've got the airport. So it's a very
looking
interesting
at the map
stretch.
on it now.
Yeah.
And I hate to say, but I don't think I've been all the way down and round it. I've just taken the trunk section.
Dear, what am I dealing with here?
You're dealing with somebody who needs more road trips, but we've not been able to do these things because of coronavirus.
I know. So yeah, the A79 it's quirky, and there's a wee cut off that comes off the A79 and takes you into Troon. The main road out of Troon joins the A78.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty interesting as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So from there, then it kind of makes sense to talk about the A78, doesn't it?
The other big one.
Yeah. Now
this is the one I like. This is the one I like. So I can help you out.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of talking here. I don't like this. I prefer it when you do all the talking. So you tell us about the A78.
Well, okay. I don't know what end to start with, because there is a few things we need to look at this. Start in the north. So you want to talk about what we call the Three Towns bypass.
Yes.
So Three Towns bypass is a later edition of the A78. We're only going to go as far as the kind of 2+1 section.
Yeah.
If you want to call it that. Okay. So this one, what bypasses? What is it?
Ardrossan, Stevenson, and
Saltcoats.
Saltcoats. Yeah.
Yes. Those are Three Towns. That was actually designed by Scott Wilson.
Scott Wilson were the engineering consultants for the Scottish office. Yeah, it was one of these design and build schemes where they gave the Scottish office an outline design, and then when the contractor won, they appointed their own designer to Carl Bro to come up with a detailed design. Yeah.
So it's a joint venture between Morrison Construction and Molam.
Oh yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, I've not heard of Molam before.
Morrison. Yeah. Molam were quite a big contractor for a while. They merged in with someone else. I can't for the life of me remember now, and I should have checked when I saw that name. But they merged with someone. I remember them merging with someone. Yeah.
And it was. I mean, I'm trying to remember. In fact, you've got the date here, and it opened up at that typical date you always see in the end of December.
Yeah.
For roads opening 2004.
Yeah.
So that's not that old at all.
Yeah.
And it came in at 30 million.
This was another one of the bypasses that Strathclyde Regional Council had
proposed
for years and years and years that had never happened.
Yeah. There's something that I'm always a bit mystified about is that the last leg of this bypass is a 2+1 and not a dual carriageway.
Yeah. I've never understood that.
Do you not know what
No. I often wonder, you've got the roundabout and the road cuts off to head for Dalry. Yes. I often wondered if they felt that there would be a lot of drop off of traffic from there heading for Dalry. Maybe it splits or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's strange. Is it two lanes coming up the hill from the north and one going down? Is that right?
Let me just check for you. Yeah, it's two lanes coming up the hill, which makes sense.
Makes sense.
Nick, this is I can ask you about this. Just what's your general opinion of these 2+1 single carriageway arrangements where you've seen them?
As long as it's the same as you guys, though, as long as the traffic flows support the traffic. So in this case, it's traffic heading up from the three towns, or the two or one town. It's traffic heading away from it, then yes, it works. They're obviously not anticipating a lot of traffic heading in the one-way system. Big issue on that road is it's a double white line system. So if you get stuck behind something that's pretty slow, you are stuck behind that. There's no safe overtaking opportunities. Certain vehicle exempt like cycles and stuff, but yeah, there's no real safe overtaking if you're trying to get into the three towns itself.
Yeah.
You're right. You say 3-lane sections, as some of them are not double whited, you can actually cross over into the other lane if you need to. But that's falling out of favour now. They don't tend to do that. Most of them have got big, wide, kind of red solid lines with a red kind of area attached in the middle that you can't cross over.
Yeah. Even the ones that I know of or used to know of that were 3 lanes, i.e. 2+1, a lot of them have been re-engineered now just to be a single lane each side, and they've just put a really big central reserve in, and it's just a painted central reserve. It's not like it's re-engineered the road in any way, but they've literally just forced it to make sure that it is only a single lane of traffic in each direction.
And if they sometimes, I've seen this, Nick, where they have the hatching in them, but it's broken hatching. So you can still cross over, but it deters overtaking. I think that I don't know what the deal is with that. It's not a solid line, but I know we're going off on a tangent here about 2+1 things, but I just wanted to get your take on it. To be honest with you, the rest of this bypass, I don't really find anything the Three Towns bypass that special.
It's very fast moving. It's like a racetrack on occasions in my experience.
It's roundabouts. It's not grade separated.
There's long streets between the roundabouts, and there's a downhill stretch as well, and I've noticed quite a problem with speeding on that. Although it's considerably better than the situation before the bypass. I mean, there was a lot of traffic, summertime traffic
going through the three towns,
dragging itself through those single carriageway urban roads. The A78 going right through there, so it was a massive improvement when it came along.
So the next section we're going to talk about is actually the Kilwinning bypass.
Yeah, another interesting bit of road.
So this is the Kilwinning Southern bypass.
Yeah, I had never realised that the Kilwinning bypass was a thing, right? I'm showing my ignorance here when it comes to Ayrshire. I always assumed that section of dual carriageway that goes from, the big retail park at Stevenson, where you've got the Morrisons, the McDonald's, and various other food outlets and things.
Yes.
I had always assumed that was the end of the Irving bypass. I'd never realised that. Had never realised.
Yeah, because when you say Kilwinning bypass, that's something that we always wish we had.
Yes,
because
that would be like a northwestern bypass almost.
Of Kilwinning, but the A737 would split off from Dalry and take that road, the B7.
Yeah,
was it the B714, and then go down that way? Yeah, that's what I think would be the Kilwinning bypass, because Kilwinning doesn't, to me, have a bypass.
Exactly.
From an A737 point of view, it doesn't. But no, this is the Kilwinning bypass, apparently.
Yeah.
And this was designed by Ayr County Council. Now, we don't have a contractor for this.
No contractor for this one. We'll need to try and find that.
But it was done in-house.
It was done in-house, yeah. It was only, what was it, £500,000, I think,
£500,000
construction. So,
at the time.
not very much. But dual carriageway, crucially,
Yes.
dual carriageway, and opened in when? August 1962?
August 1962, so another early one.
Very early, 24th of August 1962. So I guess the traffic situation in Kilwinning, just like at Ayr, must have been so bad that these schemes were considered necessary for early delivery.
Yeah.
Now the extent of Kilwinning, the Kilwinning bypass, is basically from Irving, so from the top end of that high spec dual carriageway, all the way around to the roundabout at Stevenson, which is the end of the Three Towns bypass.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a massively long section, I suppose, if we look at it that way. But I suppose
just looking. Sorry,
Go
see,
ahead,
just
Nick.
looking at the map in that one, see the A737 you were talking about that being a north-south bypass. I take it there was no plans for a north-south bypass at the east of that town, then heading into that roundabout. Is it Pennyburn?
Yeah, not that I know of, Nick, but that's not to say that Strathclyde didn't have ambitions to do that.
The plan was, and it has been mooted, that there should be a Kilwinning bypass from the A737, but that was always going to pass the west.
Yeah.
I know, and I've spoken to people who have been involved with some discussions, in the industry I've worked in, about where this really should go, if it should be quite close to Kilwinning or if it should be an upgrade of the B road.
Yeah.
To take it really far away from the town. But Kilwinning is a bottleneck.
Well, the A737 is a trunk road. So, coming down through an urban area is never ideal because you get a lot of strategic traffic. And coming through Kilwinning, and it is substandard, and you get to those traffic lights and you need to turn right onto what I think becomes the A738. That is a really awkward manoeuvre. And there's plenty of land available, north of Kilwinning. They could easily squeeze something in from there right across to the A78.
I think it's another thing they should do if we're intent on improving the A737 so much. Definitely. So we're going to move on now onto the Irving Bypass. Now, this is the section I love.
Yes.
Of this. So this is Irving down towards Dundonald. Okay.
The over-engineered section.
The over-engineered section. Now, this bit here was Irving, as we know, is a new town. Sections of it there. So this road was actually designed by the Irving Development Corporation.
Yeah.
So a lot of these new towns had their own municipal authorities kind of in there to deal with these things, and they designed this one, and it was constructed by this is a contractor I've never heard of, W&C French.
Yeah, they actually constructed stage 2B of the Monkland motorway. They were involved in that. They changed their name to French Kier, and then eventually became Kier.
Kier, who we all know and love.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. So W&C French, they were involved in some of the schemes up here. Not huge
many
ones, but
I didn't know that actually. The date we've got open, it opened on the 25th of March 1976, so that's the same year as the Renfrew motorway. Now, why do I love this section? It's put down here at 6 million. It cost
a lot of money then,
which is a lot of money then. Well, it's 3 lanes in either direction. Now in Scotland, that's unheard of.
Yes.
For an all-purpose dual carriageway, 3 lanes in either direction.
We can barely get 3 lanes on some of our motorways.
Exactly. Now, in England, people from England will be listening and go, well, you've got the A3, that's 3 lanes going each way, and loads of other examples down there. But no, in Scotland, this is quite unique and for the age of the time. And this was, of course, it was built quite large and grade separated with the junctions on it that go there. You've got Warwick's and what's the one just south of Warwick's called? If it's kind of Dundonald or whatever.
Yeah, there is another one in there, isn't there?
Yes.
Newhouse Interchange, just a
Newhouse
further south.
That's right. That's a Newhouse Interchange as well.
Another Newhouse.
Yeah, that's right.
To keep us right. They predicted a far greater growth in Irving. Than what materialised. So the idea was we'll build this wide, high capacity road first, but these things.
And you'll have all these 90,000 vehicles a day using that.
And it never happened. Don't get me wrong, it's very nice that we do have this. And certainly some of my colleagues have said to me, it's such a great road to do maintenance on because you can shut lanes during the day because it's so quiet and you can go and cut the grass.
It's one of those roads you can go turbo on as well, John. I know you like going turbo.
You can go turbo. That's just it. You know what I mean, Nick, when you need to clean out the engine a bit, I'm sorry, officer. I was just cleaning my injectors. Yeah.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. But it's a great section of road, totally over-engineered.
Yes.
Very modern in feel.
Yeah.
Good standard, high standard, good sight lines.
Very much so.
It's high speed.
Have you spent quite a lot of time in it?
Yeah, I've inspected most, if not all, of the bridges and structures on that section. There's Long Drive, which is a very long slip road that comes off of the road there. It's like a fork, and it runs for a mile. I think it's one of the longest slip roads in Scotland. It has to be. It has to be.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this one.
Yeah, it's actually called Long Drive.
Mhm.
And it's fascinating. It's always fascinated me. And again, like you say, for maintenance purposes, it's very easy because it's you can stick lane closures on and still have 2 lanes in each direction.
I know. You think it should almost have hard shoulders as well. But the 3-lane section only really runs from Warwick's up towards
it ends on the A71, doesn't it? Which makes sense because they were probably anticipating a lot of traffic coming in from the east along the A71, heading north into Irvine. You know that, so you can see why. You know, they were coming, you know, thinking, let's plan ahead here. But as you said, Irvine never quite developed in the way that they thought. By the time Irvine really started to get going, they had started to look away, or turn away from new towns. You know, started to invest more heavily in what we had already, the existing infrastructure like the East End of Glasgow and places like that. You know, so just maybe Irvine just came too late, but it got its bypass all the same, which was good.
Yeah, it's I've got a little story about it before we move on. It sticks in my memory as on those 3-lane sections, I experienced the worst hailstone kind of storm. I don't know what happened. Some kind of squall came through,
right?
And the hailstones were so bad that even the top setting of the windscreen wipers I couldn't see, and I had to stop the car.
See, when you're doing 100 mile an hour and you hit hail, it's always going to be.
It's always a problem, you know. That's just it. You know, the Ferrari was dented that day, you know. But I actually took cover under an overbridge just so I could see what was going on. It was one of the most frightening things I've ever had in my life because I remember the lights were on and everything, and every car just stopped on the road. And it wasn't busy. Everybody's, I think an HGV is going to go in the back of me here, you know. So
I think you just stopped in a live lane just because of hail.
Well, the thing is, Nick, it was one of these situations where I couldn't see.
He's not doing himself any favors tonight.
I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see a single thing, and I couldn't find a hard shoulder. So I pulled it, and it was just under one of the overbridges, and then I could see, and I bumped the car up ever so slightly.
Yeah.
And then, and the funny thing is with it, 10, 20 seconds later, it was gone.
Just went as quick as it arrived.
It was the strangest weather event I've ever had in my life, and it was also, I feel like, one of the most dangerous things that ever happened. But I had to stop. But the thing is, Nick, I mean, obviously it's not a motorway, but I might have done something wrong there because it might have been a clear way.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. But if it wasn't a clear way, then I'm perfectly entitled to stop and get the deck chair out. You never know.
Okay.
I take it there's been no calls to make one of the lanes in each side a hard shoulder, a refuge, if you like, for it. Is there any requirement for it, or
it's just not busy enough? It's just not busy enough.
But it would make what Nick's got a point. It makes sense, certainly from a maintenance point of view. Is you could convert one of them or hatch the offside off or something if you know to make
that's
it
a good point. Yeah,
breakdown friendly. But you never know. I mean, it's all future proofed for future growth.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so take us south of there then, John.
Okay, we've spoken about the Irving Bypass quite extensively there, but we come on to the Launc Bypass now, which actually runs from the southern end of the Irving Bypass at Dundonald all the way down to the A79, which we spoke about earlier.
Yeah. Now, I've always considered this to be the Troon Bypass. It was only when I started doing some research and seeing some of the papers coming in from Graham and John that I realised it was referred to as the Launc Bypass, or Troon or Barassi or any of these places that the road.
You're not wrong in saying Troon's Bypass, but I suppose it's what the contract was called. Because this one came along a bit later, it's 1982. We do not have the exact day, but 1982. It was Strathclyde Regional Council.
By that time, it would have been.
It's probably the same people.
It would have been,
So it's just Strathclyde Regional Council was obviously there at that point, and they designed that in house.
Yeah.
And mentioned here is actually French Kia.
French Kia won that section as well. But 1982 is very recent for that to be so substandard. Just single carriageway, because it's very busy in the summer. So I can only imagine the hell that there must have been getting kicked off that. Can you imagine coming off the 3-lane Irving Bypass, chucked back onto single carriageway, heading for air for years before the section to the south came on? I mean, that must have been a nightmare.
No, I can only imagine.
That must be why they had the 3-lane section for traffic management.
Yeah.
What? So people could queue.
Yeah, just stack them.
I mean, you think about it. That's 20 years after the Kilwinning bypass opened, just a few miles to the north.
I don't have much to say about that section. I mean, it does have a couple of great separated junctions, a couple of half diamonds and things like that down there before.
It's pretty featureless, to be honest.
It's nondescript, isn't it?
But it's good. It's a good bit of road, good high speed bit of road. Moves very well. And it does the job of connecting the Irving bypass with the section to Ayr. And it's like when you're driving about Ayrshire on these dual carriageways, it's fantastic because you can go from A to B very easily.
No, this is what I've been saying about how Livingston is one of the best places on the planet. You can get about so quickly. Any new town is fantastic for that.
We need to do some more research in Ayr, and we need to get to the bottom of why they were so quick to get their proposals out. And all right, okay, some of them took till the 80s to come along.
A lot of money available at the time. And things.
They've obviously had the county council who were willing to push, and there was a lot of traffic, a lot of summer traffic, as we say. So that was maybe their justification, and they've pushed hard, and they've soaked up the money and delivered. Which takes us to the final route that we're going to look at, which is one of my personal favourites. Because I love the A71 as a road.
The non-trunk one.
Yes.
Because it doesn't give you any bother because it's non-trunk.
No, I like the A71 because it's a good classic historic cross-country route in Scotland. Edinburgh to Ayr or Edinburgh to Irving.
Yeah, because the A71 is actually a very long road. I mean, if you see the A71 number, you can follow that all the way through to Edinburgh.
It's a route that comes very close to my part of the world. In Lanarkshire, I've always enjoyed using the A71.
Classify it as a great Lanarkshire road?
Yeah, fantastic Lanarkshire road. It's a great one for going to Ayr from here. Before the M77 came along, south of Newton Mearns, if I was heading to Ayr from Lanarkshire, I would have taken the A71 from Stonehouse, Straven, from Clog, Darvel, New Milns, all these places, all the way out to Kilmarnock, going that way, because it was quicker, it was safer. And it was a stated ambition at one point of Strathclyde region to bypass every town and village on the A71 and potentially even Jewett.
Yeah.
Given its old importance, but with the M77 coming along now, that's kind of killed all of that off. But anyway, the section we're interested in is the section from Irving to Kilmarnock.
To Belfield to Warwicks.
Yeah. So that was built in 3 phases as well. Phase 1, which was from the Irving bypass at Warwicks to Dreghorn, which is the first roundabout you hit. Okay. That was completed in 1978. Unfortunately, we don't know the exact date and we don't know the cost of it, but we do know that it was designed by Strathclyde Regional Council. We don't have a contractor for that bit either. No. So if anybody knows, that they can get in touch.
But it's clearly meant to be a flyover here, Stuart. I mean, look at the roundabout here. It's got the flared approaches on it.
There's 2 junctions on that road. The next one, so phase 2, which took us from Dreghorn to Moorfield, which is the second roundabout on that road. Again, you can see clearly that there was supposed to be a flyover there as well. I guess by the time Strathclyde came along, and it was the 25th of November 1983 that phase 2 opened at a cost of 8 million. Available budgets were much tighter by that stage, so the future-proofing element had gone. The building the flyover initially, the early doors stage had kind of disappeared by that stage. All right. £8 million that one cost, and it was built by Wattlings as well. Okay. There again. And then that finished us all the way across to Kilmarnock. So from Moorfield to Belfield, again, designed by Strathclyde Regional Council. Now, we think this one opened in 1987.
It's like a Kilmarnock Southern bypass.
Yes, very late 1987 for that to be open. I mean,
it's not a time you don't build roads in the late 80s.
No,
not
really.
It's like a rule.
And that's there's part of that road's elevated. It's on an elevated structure as it's, swings around past Kilmarnock.
I've seen that, I've been over that. That's pretty cool.
Now, we're not 100% sure on the contractor, but we think it may have been Fairclough. That's Leonard Fairclough of Renfrew Bypass, Renfrew Motorway Stage 2, or AMEC as they became. Possibly either of the 2 roads, but we need to have that confirmed. So that sort of completes the A71. It's a great road. There's a section of it in the East Ayrshire boundary, I think, that's now 50 mile an hour. So, so from the section from Kilmarnock to the boundary with North Ayrshire.
I've noticed this. There is a silly limit on it, and I say silly limit because I've gone on and I can't really see anything wrong with it.
You used to like going turbo on it.
No, in fairness, it just felt like, I'm at 50, but why am I at 50?
I think it had a poor accident record.
And you'd said to me, you obviously know quite a bit about the road. The road actually does a terrible safety record, and in particular, it is policed. There is a van that likes to sit in one of the laybys there, so you have to be careful.
One of those ones you've told me before, you think's an ice cream van until you're right at it, and then you realise it's too late.
Anything to
you have to be careful. Just watch your speed.
Yeah. Only the thing is, there's only the guilty should fear anything, shouldn't they?
That's
the
true,
innocent have nothing to fear.
That's very true.
Just on that, the safety camera vans generally are only placed where there is a significant history of road traffic collisions, especially serious and fatal collisions, and they're there as a deterrent. They're there to try and slow people down to stop these crashes from happening. So no turbo sections on that, please, John.
No. That leaves a tiny wee section of the A76, which you meet again at Belfield. So we've kind of done a big loop here. And that was the Hurlful Bypass, which is a single carriageway section that runs roughly from Kilmarnock Prison. John, you'll be familiar with that one.
The way this podcast is going, I'll be way too familiar with it.
All the way up to the A77, obviously, at Belfield. That's a wee section, a single carriageway there built as part of the Kilmarnock Bypass, just to improve connections and bypass the town there. You can still see the old road as you cut through, because the A71 continues, obviously, through there, heading towards Lanarkshire.
Just a little, Belfield Interchange we keep talking about?
Yes.
They call that Hurlford Interchange in the original documents.
Do they? Interesting.
Yes, I've seen that. So I was like, everything I know is a lie.
Okay, so that's interesting. Yeah, didn't know that. Any final thoughts on Ayrshire road system before we move on to a couple of questions?
No, I think you've covered so much. Nick, is there anything you'd like to say about Ayrshire?
No, I didn't realise that the Hurlford Road was that elevated just when you just said it.
It's like the West Way of Ayrshire.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, we'll go with that.
Okay.
So if anybody out there has any knowledge of the Ayrshire roads and they'd like to get in touch, please do. Email, direct message, instant message, whatever you want to send us. Get in touch.
If you've got photos, or maybe you knew somebody worked on one of these
opening
things.
brochures. We always like an opening brochure.
Yes, we have to reward anyone heavily for that.
Yes, most definitely. So please get in touch if you have that. Now we're going to take some listener questions that came in. Nick, you're going to be the question master, I believe.
I am. I'm going to try and change it up a wee bit because I think I was pretty useless with my road knowledge there when we were talking about Ayrshire Road. So I think I'll just start to quiz you guys now.
You made up for it with the policing knowledge.
Yes, that's it. So we'll give you that.
Right, stop trying to butter me up, John. We're still having this conversation.
Okay.
Listen, a couple of questions for this podcast. The first one I'm going to go with is Neil Collinson, who I think contacted us via Facebook. And he asks, hi everyone, what is your opinion on the change from discharge lighting to LED-based lights? I find the spread of light to be not as good, resulting in well-lit areas followed by dark patches. The posts were spaced for the old lights with continuous coverage, but now with the new lights, it's not so good.
Personally speaking, I hate it as a driver, but I love it as a pedestrian. It makes me feel safer when I'm walking at night on a footway because I feel the colours are a bit better and you can see more. As a driver, I don't like it so much. I find the glare of LED lighting, not just from cars that have them now, but also from the street lighting, I find it difficult on the eye, especially in wet weather. So driving at night in wet conditions, I find it difficult. Not impossible to see. I'm still able to drive safely. However, I feel that my eyesight is perhaps not as clear as it is in normal conditions.
That's an interesting point.
Pretend I'm not here.
I've heard people moan about LED lighting columns, but not so much from a driver or pedestrian perspective, but from the houses that are near them.
Yeah,
people say
because it's like daylight.
I can't sleep now because it's I can't say I've found that to be a problem. I think it's the future. It's much lower energy consumption of these things.
There's clear benefits to them, and through the work that I did with the Glasgow sign gantries and introducing LED lighting in there into the internal illumination, it is far superior to anything we had before.
There is perhaps a point in this because now that Neil has said this. In this question, I'm probably going to look out for this. Is the light spread as good? Maybe columns need to be higher and
closer together potentially.
But this is where your high mast lighting comes in. This is why high mast lighting is the best.
Yeah. LED lighting on high mast lighting on the M8 urban section is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because the spread there is brilliant. It is like driving in daylight.
Yeah.
So it's far easier. And because it's so high, it's out your eye line. I personally feel that you don't get the same glare.
Yeah.
Coming through. Through the windscreen, but it's just that wee bit higher. I find it easier to drive with the high masts.
We need more high masts.
These technology things are always changing as well because it's not just the LED, it's the optics that go with it, it's the lenses that they put on, and if they make better lenses for them, if they invest in better lenses, they're going to throw more light a further distance than what they were normally. That'll stop that bright patch right underneath the light as well, and it'll try and diffuse it a bit better. But as you say, because they're that efficient, these LED lights aren't getting replaced anywhere near as often as what the old lights are. So once these lights are in, these lights are in.
All right, okay,
that's great. Okay, next question.
What's next, Nick?
Next one, again, going to go from Facebook, and this is from Blair Nelson, who says, any idea who the guy is that stands on the pedestrian bridge round about the junction 21 M8 with a big camera? Wonder what delights he catches with it. I can answer this question. I don't know him personally. However, I do see him quite frequently when he's up on the bridge, and he does take quite a lot of photographs. And it's generally, he is just at about junction 21, just at the large overbridge. He normally stands at the westbound carriageway, so photographing vehicles coming westbound. And it's my understanding that he normally takes photographs of either passing emergency vehicles or trucks or any other vehicles of interest when he's come by.
Okay.
I am pretty sure that he puts them online. If I can find the details of it, and if he's happy with it, I'll try and get a link to put out, possibly on our social media feeds, because he does capture some really good photos in there. He's in a very unique position to take photographs, and he does capture some really good ones.
I have seen the guy a couple of times, and I have wondered myself. I wonder what he was spotting. Because I know truck spotting is quite a big thing.
Yeah, I've bumped into them on bridges at work before, where guys are out there looking for particular vehicles or trucks.
Good stuff. All right, Nick.
Certainly, I've seen myself photographed in one of our cars, or a couple of times in our cars going through there.
Really?
So there is. Not going turbo, John.
Well, you're allowed to sometimes. So it's just, okay.
I've got this one from an interesting name, G:/Razor. And he asks,
could be from the G drive.
This is our friend on Twitter. Yes.
Okay.
On Twitter. Why wasn't the eastbound M8 at Baillieston linked to the northbound M73? He suspects the church or the railway, but that's just a guess.
Yeah, it's neither of them, to be honest. It was simply that the M80 was anticipated to allow for that manoeuvre for traffic coming from the west.
Yeah.
And I think somebody actually did answer the question on Twitter. I noticed a comment. So yeah, it was really just about, it was expected that the M80 would cater for that. However, there were some disagreements between the designers of the Glasgow Highway Plan and the Lanarkshire Highway Plan. We know that John Cullen and Scott Wilson felt that Baillieston, as we've discussed before, was a bit of a disaster, to be honest, considering the size of it, and you couldn't make all movements. It was just a bit ridiculous. I think in hindsight, a connection to the northbound M73 would have been helpful, and likewise from the southbound M73 to the westbound M8.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just simply, at the time, you assumed
because
that
of the
M80
Glasgow fort being there. Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
That's not impossible.
All right, Nick, I think we've got a couple more, haven't we?
We do. Next one from Craig Fraser, who asks via Twitter, where do you think the new motorway or dual carriageway is required around Glasgow or across the country, if any?
God, that's...
Can I answer?
Yeah, but keep it brief.
Right, okay.
That's one you can go on
We've
about.
spoken about this quite a lot. Is that we have a form of a southern orbital.
Yeah.
We do need either that continued, or we need a northern orbital running from north of the Erskine Bridge coming all the way down to around about kind of near Cumbernauld to tie in just there, and providing this bypass option. If they're so keen to get people out of the city centre and improve air quality and all this guff, they should do that. You know,
these are the views of John Haskell, not the views of the Glasgow Motorway
I'm just
Archive.
saying there is a lot of talk about these things. So to me, in the Glasgow area, yeah, we need to look at a kind of bypass, to be serious about it.
I think this question's coming up for us quite regularly, quite frequently. I think we're going to have to do a podcast on potential network improvement schemes or additions.
That would be lovely.
That could be a good one for the new
I think
year.
that would be good. So that's a good one, Craig. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Nick, final question then.
Final question from John Boy, again via Twitter, is any info or information regarding how the canal was dewatered at Townhead when the M8 was being built?
Yeah, simply the two pipes that run beneath the motorway or to the side of the motorway were built first. The canal was then diverted at the Cope Bridge end into the new pipes, and then the canal basin was eventually cleared and filled or whatever, depending on whether the motorway was on top of it or not. We've got one or two photos from November 1965 showing Townhead, just north of Alexandra Parade, where you can see the old empty canal basin still sitting. So by that point, it had already been diverted. So yeah, it was a case of build the pipes, tie it in at the north end. At Cool Hill is the name of the place near Brigedi, and pump the water through there, then shut the rest of it off.
Which dry the whole thing out.
Although I'm simplifying it a bit. Initially, it was only piped from Townhead to Black Hill near Junction 12. The section from Black Hill to Brigedi was done a few years later. So anyway, it's a nice simple answer. Thanks, Nick, for those questions. They were pretty good, and thanks for the usual people for sending them in.
We've not had questions in a while, so that was nice.
Yeah, just conscious of time. So I'm just going to take the last couple of minutes just to talk about the new website, which is coming along. People will have seen on social media that the existing website has gone. It's now gone after 10 long years of service with that domain and that provider. We are deciding to move on to something much more modern and something that is more mobile friendly and much more adaptive and dynamic and interesting and easy to change.
Yes, all of that.
The old website really constrained us because we had big plans, but they were very difficult to implement, which is why progress has been slow in the last couple of years. So we've been working with various people to come up with something new. It will launch sometime between Christmas and New Year, depending on how quickly I can iron out the final issues that we have. And I'm sure you'll notice an immediate improvement when you're looking. So all the existing content that was on the old website will be available on the new one, with some changes and new photos and new schematics and new maps and a whole variety of things. The way that you find these pages has changed, because previously you would go into a route, so you went into M8, and then all the various contracts were all listed and you could click on the individual pages. What we've done is we've changed it up a bit, because we're going to be actually inviting people to produce articles for us on a whole variety of subjects moving forward. So what we've done is we've created routes pages, which basically give you a brief, broad overview of each route, each motorway, each A road, Clyde Tunnel, for example, M8, M74, they're all in there. And then we have an article section where all the individual contract pages are listed as a detailed article. And that's where you'll go if you want the really nitty gritty detail that we're well known for. So you want the really old photos, you want the really, detailed consideration of junction types and the way the route was designed. All of that's still going to be there. Just the way you find it, hopefully, will be a bit easier than before. And there's going to be new articles coming up. Nick doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be asked to produce an article on roads policing and the like, and the sort of, the day-to-day activities and duties there. John's going to do an article as well on Livingston, Newtown. That's going to be coming along. I'm going to be doing one for us on the east flank of the inner ring road and various other bits and bobs. And we're hoping actually to bring in...
And Monkland.
And Monkland. Monkland will be there from day one. We've not had the Monkland page prior to this, but it will be available. And I'm also going to do some history things as well, so considering the need for the motorways back in the 50s and 60s, how it all developed, all came together. And I'm hoping that we're going to get some planners, some actual roads planners, traffic engineers to produce some articles for us as well, just to give us some insights.
It's always good to have extra input from other people on the site. So
that's kind of the intention going forward, just to shake it up a wee bit. Now, the website will be wonderful to view on mobile. It will be very clear to read on mobile, unlike the old site. But I would say that it will still be optimized for desktop browsing. So if you've got the option of looking at it on a PC or a laptop, I still encourage you to do that. Yeah. If you look, mobile's great if you're just looking up something quickly, you want a quick view of something. But if you really want to spend some time and get a really great appreciation of it,
set an hour or two aside, get a cup of tea, and sit down and
have a look at it on desktop.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's the best way to view it. All right. I think on that note, I think we've more or less covered everything for this.
Take a breath, Stuart.
I know,
of course.
I know. This Christmas special. Yeah. Again, we'll just say thank you to everyone who purchased a calendar. My goodness, I had a very busy 3 weeks dealing with all that, the logistics of that.
You became a little warehouse.
Yes, I think we were blown away by the popularity of those this year. We far outsold last year and any expectations we had. So thank you to everybody who purchased one of them or a booklet, Kingston booklet. Still available, of course, on the website. Snap one of them up as well if you've not already. So thank you for all the support. That will allow us to continue with our work in 2021 with the digitization. Crucially, we've got our eyes on some scanning equipment that we're hoping to pick up. And there's one or two other things as well, some surprises as we work towards big events next year. Erskine Bridge 50th anniversary probably being the biggest.
Yeah, we're going to really have to start thinking about that.
Yeah. So we've got a few anniversaries coming up, so we'll be planning ahead to that, and hopefully as the situation improves, we'll be able to get out and about, and you'll start to see us again at events.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
So Nick, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm hoping you'll be coming back again many times to discuss with us. It's always
as
good
long
to
as you guys will have me. More than happy to come back.
And hopefully we can actually have you here in person again. So we can actually treat it like a proper forum and discussion, which is always great fun.
Yeah.
And John, thank you to you as well for all your usual efforts.
No worries.
But for this Christmas special and for 2020, that's the last Glasgow Motorway Archive podcast for this year. If you want to hear any of the episodes that we produce, you can, of course, find them on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's right. And don't forget about the social media. It has been fantastic lately, as always. So if you need that daily fix, go and see us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well.
Yeah, and be sure to leave us some ratings for the podcast as well, on Apple in particular. If you listen on there, as I've said many times, it does get us some exposure.
Give us a review.
Yeah, lets people see and hear about us. This podcast will be available on YouTube as well for anybody who likes to listen via YouTube. We've started uploading some of them on there, and it will be available on the new website as well. It will eventually take its place on the Ayrshire page. So on that happy note, I hope everybody has a lovely Christmas and a
Yes.
safe Christmas and safe New Year. And we'll see you back in 2021 for the launch of what we are going to call Series 3 of the Glasgow Motorway Archive podcast. We're going into our third series of them, and we've got a whole raft of things planned for the coming year.
It's going to be a good year. 2021, hopefully a lot better than 2020.
Yep. All right.
On all
It's not
counts.
going to be hard.
All right. So thanks for now, and bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.